1.7 million graduates later, I like to think the Open University has proved the naysayers wrong. We're one of the UK's top universities for overall student satisfaction. Our MBA is classed in the top 1% worldwide, and our research is rated as world-class in 20 different subject areas. Countless countries have set up their own open universities, and we are constantly being asked by governments and academics throughout the world to come in and talk about how do you actually do distance education well. Just 2 weeks ago, David Cameron used Prime Minister's Question Time to describe the OU as an extremely impressive organisation that's leading a very important export drive in higher education, largely powered by FutureLearn. Not bad for a university of blithering nonsense. The big benefit of being created from scratch with no regard for conventional wisdom is that innovation is in the Open University's DNA. It's not something we just talk about, it's sort of a value we live. Like many of you in the room, and I've got many of our FutureLearn partners here, and I'm so proud to be working with you with our endeavor, we joined YouTube in the summer of 2007, just after the site's second birthday. Since then, we've clocked up almost 20 million views. Not quite as many as What Does the Fox Say, granted, but still more than any other university or college in Europe. Over on iTunes U, we've had 65 million downloads by 10 million unique users. And OpenLearn, our original open education resource, has been visited by more than 31 million times of unique users. So it feels pretty good to us to be at the forefront, to do things a bit differently. But that's not the reason why educators should be shunning conventional wisdom and taking another look at the way they teach. It's also what our students want to see. A couple of years ago, a survey carried out by the US and HEFKE found that 78% of students think ICT improves their learning experience, and they want the latest technology to be a fundamental part of their experience, not an add-on or an afterthought. Rather than using their laptops or tablets as a high-tech alternative to a pen and paper, they want to see classes redesigned from the bottom up so that teachers and learners alike can make the most of the possibilities that technology offers. The young people of today, who we should really think of as the students of tomorrow, are growing up in an age where technology is par for the course. You can download iPad apps designed specifically for toddlers, teaching them how to interact with the digital space from an extremely early age. The millennial generation makes no distinction between the online and offline worlds. There's just one world that is connected and powered by computers. Only the most slavish devotee of conventional wisdom would say that the old sage-on-the-stage model will remain the definitive way of teaching, when virtually everyone in the developed world carries with them that weapon of mass distraction that's capable of wirelessly and instantly accessing almost the entire sum of human knowledge. And yes, I know how ironic it is, given that I've just been delivering you a lecture for about 17 and a half minutes. What we need in education is what engineers call user-centered design. You still have an amazing high-quality product, but it's one designed for the benefit of the end user rather than the producer. It's not about dumbing down or giving the crowd what it wants. It's about recognizing that the world we live in has changed immeasurably over the last 25 years, and that people who have grown up in that world have very different expectations about how life should be. Now, one of those curmudgeons I mentioned earlier could stand here and say, it shouldn't be that way, that things shouldn't change, that we should keep teaching the way we always have. But as Bill so eloquently put it, the cat is out of the bag, Pandora's box is open, whatever we want to describe it as, but there is no turning back. But that would be, in a way, to try to do that would be like commanding the tide to turn. The world we live in has changed, and what matters now is how we as educators respond to it. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, that does not mean we have to panic. Contrary to some of the alarmist headlines from the past year or so, the traditional university is far from being dead. Its days are not even numbered. Education isn't a zero-sum game, and we need to move on from the simplistic and outdated idea that there is some unbridgeable divide between online and face-to-face teaching, or that we have to choose between technology or tradition. In reality, ladies and gentlemen, there is great teaching online, and there is lousy teaching online. There is great teaching face-to-face, and there is lousy teaching face-to-face. The goal for everybody in this room is quite simply, as it should have always been, great teaching. The factor that dictates whether a student will learn something isn't the mode used to deliver the education, it's the fundamental quality of the education itself. And I believe nothing matters more than that. So it's not about whether campus courses are better than their online counterparts or vice versa. It's about how we can all offer the best education we can to our current and potential students. And it's not about whether we choose between bricks and mortar or online mouse clicks. It's about using clicks and mortar to deliver a quality experience. That blend reflects how the wider world is evolving. In other words, higher education will begin mirroring and contributing into the societies in which we operate. We stand in shops using our smartphones to look up prices and the reviews of products in front of us. We build online social networks that allow us to organize real-world events. We sit at home, on the train, in a coffee shop, and connect with colleagues in the office thanks to remote working. We might not realize it, but in 2014, the vast majority of us engage with the world around us through a mix of technology and face-to-face experiences, and I believe education should be no different. Which brings us back to MOOCs. People in here, I'm told, are the leaders, the MOOC evangelists. But outside this hall, ignorance and, worse still, cynicism reigns. Just like those early critics of the Open University, conventional wisdom says that the vital element of quality is absent, that MOOCs are at best a handy marketing tool, but that they can never offer students anything approaching a meaningful education. When I and Kathy and Simon set up FutureLearn with the partners in the room, with Neil and others, we had one goal very clear in our minds, and that was really embedded from the first PowerPoint slide. The concept has to be all about quality. Bill talked about differentiation. You know, we plan to differentiate on the quality of the learning experience, and that's an approach that shines through all of our work today. We have 23 of the UK's top 30 universities, with England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland all represented. We have international partners from the Republic of Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. We have 3 of the UK's most cherished cultural institutions, the British Council, British Museum, British Library. We've also had cross-party backing from the politicians, not just in Westminster, but Holyrood, Cardiff Bay, and Stormont. While these figures and endorsements are impressive, everyone involved in FutureLearn, us, our partners, have always been clear that we're not going to judge its success on the number of courses or the number of students or the number of partners. Even Starbucks chairman Howard Schultz has admitted that being bigger isn't always better, as rapid expansion can lead to a watering down of the experience you offer. That's why at FutureLearn, our key measure of success is quality. The quality of the teaching, the quality of the outcomes, the quality of the overall student experience. This approach is no different to what the best of higher education has always been about. What makes London or Cambridge or Stanford a great university isn't the number of students they teach, it's what and how the students are taught. And FutureLearn is no different. In our post-course surveys from our first courses offered, I was so incredibly proud when I saw this statistic. Around 95% of users say they will recommend FutureLearn to a friend. I'm sure Simon Nelson, FutureLearn's chief executive, who's here later today, as you heard, will have much more evidence at his fingertips. And in fact, he sent Kathy here to make sure I wouldn't give any more of his statistics this morning. So I'll leave that to Simon. Now, obviously, a lot of people have said, and it even came up in the introductory remarks, that we weren't the first to spot what was going on with MOOCs and get involved. When we first unveiled plans for FutureLearn in late 2012, Coursera, Udacity, and edX were already up and running. MOOCs had already taken the US HE sector by storm, and we're beginning to establish a foothold in the UK, thanks to open-minded institutions like the University of London that host us today. Back then and in the months that have followed, quite a few people have said that UK universities should follow a similar path, that we should sign up with existing providers and fit around their ways of working, rather than creating our own platform. But as you can clearly tell, I didn't agree with them, because I think we can do something better, and let me tell you why. After the last US presidential election, a senior member of Barack Obama's team, was asked about the secret to building a winning campaign. And he explained that they hadn't done anything radically different to what had gone on before, but instead had built on the foundations of previous campaigns and made small yet significant changes to suit the demands of the day. He called it tweaking. And yes, I did say tweaking. And he explained how it's often not the pioneers who eventually come out on top, but the tweakers, the people who see an idea with great potential and develop it to give the world what it wants and needs. Henry Ford didn't invent the production line. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb. They took ideas that were out there and they tweaked them, fixing what didn't work, developing what did, in order to create what would go on to become the market leader, and in doing so, secure their place in the history books. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we have another example. Does anyone here listen to their music on an audible.com mobile player? How about a Cowan iAudio CW100 or an Arcos jukebox? Probably not. I bet many of those listen on an iPod or an iPhone. Audible, Cowan, and Arcos all brought portable MP3 players to the market before Apple did. But in 2013, there is absolutely no dispute about who the global leader is. In its first decade, the iPod shifted 350 million units worldwide. Incredible growth from a standing start. So ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be the first to be the best. What matters is how you engage with your customers, your readers, your students. Can you give them what they want and need? Can you give them something that fits around the way they work, live, and study? Can you deliver a superior offering that stands out from the crowd? And that's exactly what we're planning to do with FutureLearn. We're looking at what's there, building on what works, fixing what doesn't, and creating something incredible that changes the way people think about online education. FutureLearn, as I like to say, may be a little late to the party, but now that we've arrived, we'll dance better than anybody else that's there. Back in 1995, American scientist Clifford Stoll infamously predicted that e-commerce would never take off and that no online database will replace your daily newspaper. Around that same time, Ethernet founder Robert Metcalfe told the world that the internet will soon go spectacularly supernova and in 1996 will catastrophically collapse. And barely 12 weeks ago, you'd have struggled to find an expert who would have predicted anything other than Ian Bell, Kevin Peterson, and Graham Swan propelling England to another Ashes triumph down under. That one didn't work out so well, did it? But Stoll, Metcalfe, and the global cricketing media are not stupid people. They know what they're talking about. They understand their fields of expertise better than most of us. But even for the experts, it can sometimes be all too easy to fall in the trap of focusing on what has gone before, to allow yourself to be cornered by the tyranny of conventional wisdom, to rely on what you know rather than to explore what you could learn for the future. Imagine if just 5 years ago I'd stood up at a mainstream education conference and said that in 2014, literally millions of people around the world would be taking online courses offered by top universities and not paying a penny for the privilege. I'd have been laughed out of the room and most likely not invited back. Conventional wisdom, ladies and gentlemen, is a powerful thing. Yet as the late management guru Peter Drucker put it, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's what people in this room are doing. You're not guessing what the future of higher education will look like, you're shaping it. And you're not making predictions based on what has gone before, you're creating something new that, like Senate House, could not have been built by any previous generation. But if we're going to be successful, we have to win over those curmudgeons. We have to sell our vision to the doubters and the skeptics. We have to enlist the people who right now are saying, we've always done things this way, so we must always do things this way. We have to explain the benefits, we have to answer the questions, and we have to show them that conventional wisdom is wrong and that MOOCs really do have a massive role to play in the future of higher education. If we don't, the possibilities of MOOCs will never be realized in the wider world. The 92% of Britons who have never heard of MOOCs will never hear of MOOCs. The millions who stand to benefit from free online education will not gain the skills and knowledge they need to improve their careers or their lives. That's why it's so important that we stand up to the tyranny of conventional wisdom and do everything we can to make MOOCs a very public success. Because the people in this room are the MOOC pioneers. But the revolution we're leading isn't just for us, because as Tim Berners-Lee said of the World Wide Web, this is for everyone. Thank you very much.